Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sonic Heroes on the Xbox. I'm One Welsh Sheep yet again.
Looks like Eggman escaped into the city.
Eggman's robots are taking control of everything.
Let's find Eggman and show him the real power of teamwork.
Yeah, let's show him the real superpower of teamwork. Wow! So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second part of the LP, and here we are in the city. We are back in Eggman's main city land area thing here, and one thing that's always confused me about the Sonic franchise: the technology in this series is really inconsistent. Now, how do I mean by that? I mean by the fact we have ancient cities with more old school appliances, we have newer cities that are basically modern, and then we get futuristic cities all in the same world. None of this stuff really makes sense if you really think about it. Why do we have future cities and normal modern cities? You'd think that if they have the technology for all these hover cars and super highways, every city in the world would be using them, but I don't know. It's something that's always sort of bugged me about the series. It's really inconsistent when it comes to that. But any viewers out there with a keen eye would probably recognize the fact this game also brings back the old school zone format from the original Genesis Sonic titles as well, ladies and gentlemen. And basically, while it does bring back the zone format, every single stage is considered a new level. Every single stage in this game has its own unique its own unique level name. For example, this is Grand Metropolis. The next stage after this will be Power Plant, if I recall correctly, but they are still a part of the same zone, you know, folks. So basically you have Act 1, which is like Seaside Hill, which is beach level. Then you have Act 2, which is moving deeper into the beach level, which is I forgot the name of it, but you know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, you go through level themes constantly. You go through three stages of each theme, 2 normal levels, and a boss fight in a themed area, you know, folks. But, yeah, one of the biggest things that have been changed in the Sonic series for this game is the fact that every single enemy in this game has a health bar. As I sort of glossed over it in the first part of the LP, but basically, yeah, every single enemy has a health bar because of this team mechanic that is in place. And basically, the game's going to try and get you to really, really utilize the team mechanics in order to take down enemies' health and take them out, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I say that, but once you get a level 3 Sonic, you can take out all the enemies just like in the Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 style, you know, folks, but, I digress. And as you can easily tell as well, the Lightspeed Dash also makes a massive return. And the Lightspeed Dash takes the form of the Sonic Adventure 2 version of the power. Although, one thing that's kind of iffy about the Lightspeed Dash in this game, ladies and gentlemen, is it's a little bit more buggy in comparison to Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2. Because basically, what I recommend is whenever you have a Lightspeed Dash trail or rings to dash on by pushing the X button, what I recommend is sort of jumping first, because there is a very high chance that you will clip the floor otherwise when you're doing Lightspeed Dash, and this can actually cause you to fall into bottomless pits. If you fall into bottomless pits, that, my friends, is no good. So you don't want to be doing that. What can I tell you? Of course, those explosions that are happening on screen a few seconds ago, that was basically Knuckles' level 3. With the power characters basically have the more significant changes when they hit level 3 in each of their arsenals. For example, Knuckles, when he hits level 1, he gains a small shockwave attack. When he hits level 2, he gains a fire attack. And when he hits level 3, he causes massive, massive explosions all around wherever he lands with his punches. So, basically, the power characters themselves are significantly changed as they level up, and they can basically decimate entire groups of enemies with little effort if you know to swap to them, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But, yeah, that's kind of a neat thing. I do kind of dig that, and the power characters are also the most different characters out of the other teams in the game as well. Every team in the game has its own power character, and each power character basically has its own moveset. Every speed character in this game basically plays like Sonic, every flying character plays like Tails, but every power character is slightly different in some way, shape or form, which I do kinda dig. And as you can easily tell as well, I've been flipping off of massive poles out of the ground as Sonic in this one, folks. And that's basically a new mechanic that's been introduced for this game. Basically, speed characters can utilize the wind in order to climb up poles and whatnot by jumping and then pressing the X button, which is actually a new ability that has been introduced in this game called the Tornado move. Basically, you can do this to weaken enemies, you can do this to make enemies more vulnerable to your attacks. And you're going to see me use this move quite a bit later on, especially when I come across turtle enemies. But, yeah, you need to use this tornado ability to climb up these poles and get further and further on in each of the stages. And one of the things that's kind of different about these poles is when you reach a level 3 speed character, your homing attack will also have a bit of a wind attribute. So you can also weaken enemies by homing attacking them, and even use the poles by simply homing attacking them if you reach level 3, which I think is pretty damn dope. What can I tells ya? What can I tells ya indeed? But of course, as you can probably guess at this point as well already, is each of these stages going on for quite a bit longer than usual levels in a Sonic game. And that is one of my biggest problems with Sonic Heroes, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, the stages are ridiculously long and ridiculously huge. Now, most people may not complain about this too much, because obviously it's more content, it's more level to play through. But when it comes to platformers like this, when it comes to fast-paced action platformers, I prefer my levels to be really condensed in size so they're not too massive. And this is an issue that I even bring up in Freedom Planet as well, because I love Freedom Planet. I've even done an LP on that game as well. Hint, hint, newcomers to this channel, hint, hint. But, basically, levels in that game also went on for too long. I've always been more fond of smaller stages in video games as opposed to longer ones, which, you know, it's no big deal. I can still deal with the longer stages, but it's still, it sort of ruins my enjoyment of the game a little bit, and especially considering how repetitive this game is and you have to do 4 whole playthroughs of the damn thing, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more noticeable how large the levels are, especially when you get into the next characters we're going to be playing as, which is Team Dark, where the levels go on for roughly 10 to 15 minutes at a time. And do you think I'm joking? I'm not joking. Levels do go on for that long, and that's again another big reason why I was really dreading doing this LP, really dreading starting this one off, because this is more of a challenging LP to do when I get later down the line. I can clearly see myself freaking out and struggling to figure out things to say. But I digress. Anyway, these blue areas that we're running on, they basically are gravity manipulation platforms. If we're running down one of these on a slope, they will speed us up. And whenever we reach a vertical version of these blue pathways, then we will hover up until a higher area, and basically we'll be able to platform higher on and move on higher up areas, you know, ladies and gentlemen. It's only a small thing, but I dig it. Although one thing I kind of don't like about Sonic Heroes as well is it really brought home the whole destroy all enemies to continue sort of level design. Now, in certain areas of this game, you will be locked out from continuing unless you were to kill every single enemy in a single room. And I know a lot of people don't really mind this too much, especially in regards to this game due to how different it is compared to most Sonic titles, but this really bugs me. Because it's a fast-paced game, I'd much rather get through the levels quicker. I don't want to be dealing with faffing about with all these enemy types being locked out of moving further in the level just because there's enemies nearby, you know, folks. I want to be able to go fast. It's a Sonic game, don't you know? And you gotta go fast. And the enemies being in the way, blocking my path, are reducing my chances of going fast, and it kind of annoys me. It's like, it's one of my biggest issues with this game onwards, and honestly, I wouldn't be so frustrated about being locked out of moving forward in this game in particular if it weren't for the fact that future Sonic games adapt this mentality, this design mentality of locking you out of progressing further in the room until you get all the enemies killed. Like Sonic Rush is another example of this, where in Sonic Rush there's these kill rooms. You have to go and kill all the enemies in the room before you can progress, and it's just so counterintuitive to Sonic's design mentality, and it really annoys me, you know? Maybe I'm just being a bit more picky than most people. What can I tell ya? I don't know, but it does annoy me a great deal. What can I say? What can I say indeed? Also, whenever you come across loads of obstacles in the environment that are really tricky to dodge, I do recommend using tails and flight formation. Because the flight formation of the game basically will make you go slower. You will always move slower whenever you are playing as the flight character. And this is honestly something I welcome, because it allows you to do lots more tricky platforming with less difficulty, you know, folks. Which is something I do appreciate. But again, although this is more of homing attack chain, so this doesn't really apply too much. But again, we can't progress up in this higher path unless we deal with the enemies first, and I don't like that. I just want to be able to move forward, you know. I just want to be rewarded for skill and not punished by having to fight more enemies until I can move on, you know, folks. I don't know, it could just be me being picky about the game's design, but this always annoyed me. Although whenever you come across those checkpoints, we've been seeing a couple of them during the course of the playthrough, and I haven't really brought up this up yet. Basically, whatever character you are currently playing as, whenever you come across a checkpoint, you will actually gain a level up for that character. So basically, if I'm playing as the Tails, and I go through a checkpoint as Tails, Tails will level up and get more powerful. So you can, whenever you come across checkpoints, what I usually sort of recommend doing is actually stopping just before you go to touch the checkpoint, switch to whatever character you think needs to be leveled up next, and then touch checkpoint in order to continue. Although, if you do die, you will lose all of your level ups, which it can be a bit of a pain in the arse, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you that much. But, you know, it's an additional little layer that they added to the game. They didn't have to add the whole checkpoint leveling you up, but they did. And honestly, I appreciate that. Because outside of leveling up through the checkpoints, the only other way to level up is through a completely random enemy drop. From time to time, you kill an enemy, and sometimes they'll drop a power-up cell orb thingy, which we saw in the last part, which will level you up, you know, folks. And those of you with a keen eye will probably be noticing that I am only really collecting the Chaos Emerald keys in the second act of each zone. Why, you might be wondering? Well, there is actually a reason for this, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, and that's as simple as we can't get all the Chaos Emeralds, well, we can't get any Chaos Emeralds in Act 1. Every Chaos Emerald has to be obtained in Act 2 of each zone. And you can collect the keys in Act 1, we've seen keys around, but the problem is we aren't able to physically pick up the Chaos Emerald, because when we go to an Act 1 version of a special stage, it's basically a practice version of the special zone that gets us extra lives. And honestly, this game, extra lives get chucked at you constantly, so you never really need to go out of your way for them. So I never really find myself needing to go to the Act 1 special stages, you know, ladies and gentlemen. What can I tell ya? But anyway, boss fights in this game are actually done in two different ways. We've already seen the first type of boss fight, now it's time to see the second type of boss fight, which is the team battle.
Sonic! Knuckles! We did it!
But anyway, this is the special stage number 2, ladies and gentlemen, so let's just continue on with this. And yeah, I didn't really go into the controls of this perfectly last time, but basically you have to move left and right in order to move left and right, and just boost in order to get the Chaos Emeralds. And try to avoid going on the walls. If you go on the walls in these special stages, good bloody luck getting the Chaos Emerald, because it will stop you from moving forward. Again, you'll see me screw up a bit later down the line, but until then.
Gotcha, my darling Sonic.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
Amy, you know, at the altar, Amy, Sonic could just, when the priest goes, when you have to say I do, right? He could just not say I do, and boom, you don't have to force him to marry. Your logic, woman. Your logic makes no sense. But anyway, these are the team battles. Basically, do the jump whirlwind attack, and you'll win these. That's all I can really say. They're easy as hell. So, that's all I gotta say. But those team battles they can be really easy or really difficult depending on your luck. So I do advise just spamming the whirlwind attack as soon as possible, whenever possible, and usually 9 times out of 10 you will win within a couple of seconds. But that is it for this part. So thank you all for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish, people. Now catch you all next time. Bye.